You're in Matthew chapter number 7 is where I'm going to be directing my attention today. Please make sure you have your Bible open. If you don't have a Bible with you, the verses will be up on the screen. Let's welcome our audience that's listening all over the world. Hey, we're glad you're on time today, watching us. We want you to enjoy the broadcast. Matthew chapter number 7, verse number 24. Jesus is speaking here. Therefore, whosoever heareth these sayings of mine, and doeth them, I will liken him unto a wise man which built his house upon a rock. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat upon the house, and it fell not, for it was founded upon a rock. And everyone that heareth these sayings of mine and doeth them not shall be like unto a foolish man who built his house upon the sand. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat upon that house. And the Bible says, and it fell. And great, the Bible says, was the fall of it. In other words, it was beyond repair. I want to preach this morning with a subject that affects all of us in one way or another. I want to preach on the topic today, a storm has destroyed my home. A storm has destroyed my home. In the context of the scripture here, this is the longest message Jesus ever preached that we have in print in the Bible. It's called the Sermon on the Mount. It started in Matthew chapter 5, went through chapter number 6, and all the way through the ending of chapter number 7. When you read the Sermon on the Mount, it's not only the longest message he preached, it deals with so many diverse and different subjects. When he comes down to the conclusion of the 3 chapters of preaching, he said, here's the way it is. If you'll listen to me, it's like a house being built on a rock, and no matter what comes your way, you'll be able to stand. If you don't listen to me, when the storms of life come, your life is going to fall all to pieces. That's the interpretation of these verses. But I see a very powerful application here. And that is the fact that out of everything Jesus could have illustrated our lives either being built up or destroyed, he used a home, a house, a dwelling. And here it did not matter what foundation the home was built on, it still suffered through the storms. I want to preach on the home this morning. Are you going to allow a storm to destroy your home? It doesn't matter if your home is built on the rock, the Lord Jesus Christ. That doesn't eliminate the fact that your marriage is going to face issues and problems. When you take 2 people and you put them together to unite to start what they call a family, do you understand you're taking 2 people raised by 2 totally different families with totally different environments and possibly totally different temperaments? Then you bring these 2 isolated people together and collide them in front of a church with this ceremony called marriage. And all of a sudden they become one household, under one roof, involved in one marriage, and experiencing no problems. That is an impossibility. When 2 people come together, I promise you, there's going to be disagreements. I disagree with myself sometimes. If you're waiting for the perfect marriage, you will never get married. Now, Matthew and Allison have just announced they're engaged. See how they're smiling and laughing? Take a picture of that. Because 2 years from now, I want you to take another picture of them. He'll be sitting on this side of the church, she'll be sitting on that side, and they hadn't talked in 4 days. Because when people come together, do you understand, Miss Allison, you're seeing him at his best. You understand that, don't you? Okay. If you think he's going to be like this after you get him, you need to see a psychologist now. You women had no idea when you married your husband that you was marrying a reincarnated hog. He throws his clothes everywhere, never cleans up after himself. His underwear is on the lamp. His pants are on the refrigerator. You're laughing, but you know I'm telling it right. How many times have you said within your own brain, if I'd have known he was this stinking filthy, I'd have never married this idiot? But you're seeing him at his best. And ladies, don't laugh too loud, because you don't wake up with your hair curled and your teeth all clean and white. You get fungus in the mouth just like everybody else. And men, don't be too impressed with her looks. That's $14 of Mary Kay makeup you're looking at on her face. You need to see her once without makeup. You gotta see her once before you marry her without makeup. If you don't, when you marry her and you roll over the next day, you'll think somebody changed beds with you and you was somebody else's wife. So we come together and we start this thing called a home. The Bible is very clear that in this home, watch this, the rains descended, right? The floods came up and the winds blew. Now here's what that is illustrating to me. Even if your home is a Christian home, you're going to have storms and problems come from different directions of your life. And it may come from an unexpected direction that you wasn't foreseeing any way that this would be an attack on your marriage. Storms come and problems come that all of us never dream of. Somebody said, why on a Sunday morning on television and internet around the world would you preach on the home? Well, several reasons. Number one, half of you that are sitting next to your mate today will not be with them the rest of your life. Divorce is 50% in church-going people for the first time in American history. I'm preaching on the home because 70% of the generation that's following me will cheat on their mate within the first 10 years of their marriage. That alone should be enough reason for preachers to be crying out and dealing with this subject called the home. I want your home to be very strong, because it's not if the storms are going to come, they're going to come to your relationship. But if you're not strong in your relationship, then you're going to allow the storm to destroy what God has instituted as what we call the home. Here's why I want your home to be strong. Number one, I want you to be happy. Home ought to be a place you look forward to going to. There's no place like home. And men, you ought to make home heaven on earth to your wife. And you women ought to make home heaven on earth to your husband. You remember when you were dating, you couldn't spend enough time around your wife? Oh, dear Lord. You never went fishing. You never went hunting anymore. You turned down overtime. You wouldn't even wash your car because it was time away from her. You couldn't be around her enough. Now you work 3 jobs, so you don't have to go home. Yeah, I know I'm not going to get much shouting, but I'm going to preach this anyhow. So whether you shout or clap, it don't matter to me. I'm going to tell you the truth. Home ought to be heaven on earth. I don't mind fighting hell anywhere in this country, but I'm not fighting it when I enter the front door of my house. I want your home to be a unit that brings happiness. Not just survival, but happiness to your life. Number two, I want your home to be strong because so goes the home, so goes the church. You understand, Brother Collins, that God instituted the home thousands of years before he ever founded the church. God instituted the home, he instituted the government, and he instituted the church. And the devil has got an all-out attack on all 3. He is being very successful in the governmental realm. He's being very successful in the church realm. Many churches through this virus thing have closed down, and I'm getting phone calls every day. They're not even opening back up anymore. I'm talking about they are closed for good and not opening up anymore. They called me and said, you can't have church. I said, oh, yes, I can. They said, nobody will come. Well, the building's full, the balcony's full. Somebody still wants to go to church. So the way that the devil can continue to affect the church is by destroying the home. No way in any shape, form, or fashion. And am I trying to bring up a past relationship that may be ended in a negative conclusion that you could not help? That's not my motive. You know the hurt, the pain, the questions of divorce and separating. You know the feelings and the emotions and all that goes with it. And because you understand the hurt and the pain, you ought to be the ones clapping the loudest when I'm preaching on this to keep the next generation from not making some of the mistakes some of us have made. So I want your home to be strong, because so goes the home, so goes the church. The third reason is because when you bring children into this world, they did not ask to be brought into this world, nor did they have a vote on what family they were to be born into. But that child coming into this world deserves a home of security. It deserves a home of protection. It deserves a strong foundation. No child should go to bed every night wondering if their mom and dad is going to be separated the next day. They should not. No child ought to go to bed every night listening to their mom and dad fussing and cussing and throwing things and pitching tantrum fits and kicking sheetrock and squealing tires out of the car. A child deserves a little bit better than that. They deserve a secure foundation when they come into this world. But the truth is something I face. The truth is the average family, Christian family, the marriage is hanging on by a thread. And each one are waiting to see if the other can outlast the other until the end comes to the relationship. It's not a thing of love anymore, it's a thing of survival. And God never intended the home to be that way. So what can we expect when we get into this thing called marriage? You young people, you better listen to me. Look up here at me. Olivia, look up here at me. You better like more than a boy's pearly white teeth and his six-pack. Because what are you going to do 40 years from now when he puts his teeth in a cup and his six-pack becomes a 2-liter? What are you going to do then? Now what you going to love? Because there are times age takes its effect on all of us. And I don't like it. I don't like getting old. I don't like it. But when I look at the alternative, I don't mind it as much. It's just not all that bad. But I used to be in church services, and I'd hear people say, pray for my back and pray for my hip. And I'd think, man, shut up. This ain't a nursing home. It's church. But I tell you, I love those people now. They're so precious to me. Because when they stand up, I'll tell my wife, well, I got that. I've had that for years. He'll never get over that. I've had it. You see, a home is not an emotional experience. A home is a commitment. Because commitment will keep you dedicated and happy long after the emotions are gone. So I'm not asking you to always fall around with hearts dancing above your head. I'm asking you to honor the commitment and the vow that you made to God, that you were going to be married to them till death do you part. I can't even say stuff as a joke anymore. People are so upset, especially this TV crowd. They're a bunch of pansies. You say any little thing, they write in, you know, what they don't like. So you're married to death do you part. You don't like them, kill them. You're free to marry again. Now, I'm just teasing when I say that. 3 women pulled pistols out of their purses when I said that just now. So I want to talk about, what kind of home have you got? If I were to give you a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being sad, 10 being happy, where's your home at on that scale? Let me tell you 3 things about the home, and I'm done. Number 1, I want you to notice the direction of the storm. What causes most homes to fall apart? Number 1 is communication. People do not talk anymore. They tweet each other. I'm not exaggerating. Husbands and wives in the same room will text each other. They don't talk to each other. They text each other. The only 2 muscles this generation ever uses is their thumbs. It's the only muscles they ever know to use. We don't know how to communicate anymore. And if we do talk, it's in an elevated, mean voice, and it turns into an argument, and nobody wants to communicate. How much time did you spend talking to your mate yesterday? Did you ever sit down and talk about your week? How was work? How did things go? How you feeling? What's going on in your life? You ever take time to communicate? There's times to talk, and then there's times to shut up. See, men and women are different, and you women get mad because we don't understand you. We cannot be like you. Our brains don't do that. We cannot stay up with you. My wife will come to me and she said, you know, we got to be there at 7:30, and then tomorrow we got to be over here, and then, you know, I got to do this, and I got to clean the house. She's gave me 8 subjects. I'm ready to smoke a joint that long and that big around. She's blowing my mind, man. I can't stay up with all that nonsense. Brother boy, give me one thing at a time, and let's talk it out, man. I got time. It ain't got to happen that fast. I mean, I'm a nervous wreck, and I ain't even got out of the bed yet. This before we get out of bed. There's times you need to talk, but men and women are different. And ladies, we're not different because we're trying to be mean. It's kind of like a newspaper. You got a big title up front. That's the main news of the day. It's just a few words. Then you got all that writing underneath it. Men are the main words. Women is all that stuff that comes underneath it. We're just different. I can go up to any man in this building and without fear say, how you doing? Fine. Great. Blessed. It's over. Don't you ever ask a woman how she's doing. That is the worst mistake you have ever made in your life. It is a 30-minute journey to get out of there. Now, on the other hand, if you walk in the house and your wife's washing dishes and you say, hey, honey, how are you? And she answers you with one word, fine. She's not fine. You get out of there as fast as you can. And don't turn around. Don't you give her your back. She'll pop you with a skillet right in the back of the head. You back out of that house and go to Walmart and get some flowers. If you can't afford it, stop over here at this cemetery. They ain't using them anyhow. But you better do something to get your act together. And communication, it sounds funny, but it's a problem. People just don't talk anymore. And then there's times, ladies, when you just, why do you always have to get the last word in? Have you ever thought about just shutting up? Have you ever thought, hey, I'm going to be quiet? Have you ever done that? You ever even thought about, you know what, I'm going to lay cool. I know you haven't. I know. You don't have to wag your head at me. You got to get the last word in. It's got to be me. I think I told this, a man was arguing with his wife, and he said, I'll tell you something. I am sick and tired of you getting the last word in. I'm tired of it. She said, what are you going to do? He said, if you don't shut up, I'm going to put duct tape over your mouth. And they were arguing over a pair of scissors. Scissors! And he said, honey, would you just shut up about the scissors? She said, scissors, scissors, scissors. He said, you old hag. So he set her down and duct taped her hands and feet and put duct tape over her mouth. He said, what have you got to say now? She said, ever. God, you got to get the last word in. He said, well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put your feet in concrete, and I'm going to throw you in the river. You ain't getting the last word in. So he put her feet in concrete, took her to the bridge, threw her over in the river, and looked over the side. And as she was going down, her hand come up and did this 3 times out of the water. A storm can come in your marriage through communication. A storm can come into your marriage through a checkbook. Did you know 1 out of every 3 divorces in America is a financial problem? There are some men, bless your heart, no matter how much money you make, you're going to be broke by the end of the week. Because you were dumb enough to give your wife a credit card and an automobile and no accountability, and she is in hog heaven, spending money she don't have on things she don't need to impress people that she doesn't even like. And, oh yeah, I know I'm preaching. Sure I am. So men lose the ability and the desire to live and supply and take care of their family because no matter what he makes, she's going to blow it. And then we probably got some women or men here that have secretly went behind your mate and started your own credit card that your mate doesn't even know about. How more mistrusting can you be than to not be honest with your finances? You ought to sit down every week and look at your finances and say, this is what we have, this is what we can spend. It's something called a budget. And this is what we're not going to spend, and this is what we're going to save, and this is what we're going to put away for our kids' education. And we don't have to spend everything we got, and we don't have to be broke every Friday wondering where we're going to get our lunch money to eat at work. You don't have to live like that. So be sure you keep your financial problems above board and communicate about them. Another thing is contact. The storm comes because of contact. There's no affection, there's no love, there's no hugging. Nobody wants to hold hands or switch sugar anymore. Nobody wants to kiss. You can't get them to put Facebook down long enough to get sugar off anybody anymore. I remember I teased Brother Snap about that all the time. It makes me Snap mad. We was at the races the other day. I'd give $1,000 if I had this. Me and Brother Mark was at the races with Brother Snap the other day, and he's wearing a mask. Well, he dipped snuff or whatever that fuzzy stuff is he puts in his mouth. And he dips it all the time. And he carries a bottle and spits it in that bottle, the snuff. He'll say, this stuff's filthy. I say, just come out of your mouth. And it's brown junk that floats around. How many of you women know what I'm talking about? Oh, yeah, you got one too, right? But what he did, he put a mask on because of this virus, and he forgot he had it on. So me and Brother Mark are sitting there, and they're racing, and I could tell, you know, he swells up like a gerbil. And he had a mouthful of spit. And I seen him reach over and grab his container to put it in. And he forgot all about that mask. Well, he held that container around and went, oh, son. He took that mask off. It looked like a dirty diaper. I about threw up. I about threw up on the woman in front of me. It's all down his beard and down his chin. And I said, Snap, if you had to choose between snuff or kissing your wife, what do you want? He said, snuff. That's exactly what he said. But you'd be surprised at the people that don't love each other anymore. Did you know 61% of the women in America go to bed every night and don't even know if they're really loved by their husband? If there's one security your wife ought to have, it ought to be that above anything else, you love her supremely. You know what I say to my wife almost every night when I go to bed? I love you, and there's nothing I wouldn't do for you. After 43 years of being hitched to the same woman, I still want her to know she's the love of my life. And there's nothing I wouldn't do for her. I may not get done, but she's a feisty little one. Don't you let her have. I'll tell you something. Don't you let Miss Kid fool you. There ain't no set of wings on her back either. I was talking to her one time. I'll tell you how mean that woman is. I was talking to her one time. I said, honey, I believe if I cheated on you, God would kill me. You know what she said? He wouldn't have to. Where did that come from? Number 4, you got to watch the direction. If you're not careful, the storm will come through your children. Man, I'm going to tell you, kids are a ripoff. They're not what they're made up to be. I don't care how many commercials you watch, how many Lifetime movies you watch. I'm going to tell you, man, kids are a headache. They're a problem. If I had to do over, I'd raise chihuahuas. Kids will drive you nuts. You invest 19 years into a brat that probably won't even say thank you when you're done. All the cars you didn't buy, all the clothes you didn't buy, all the vacations you didn't take, all the sacrifices you made go totally unnoticed by this generation. They never take time to write a note and say, thank you, Mom and Dad, for putting food on the table, clothes on my back, and a roof over my head where I can sleep at night. And the next thing you know, the kids get between the mom and dad. These kids are slick, man. Your kids are slick. You say, oh, my kids. Hush, shut up. I am talking about yours. I'm talking about mine. They know how to pit mom and dad against each other. They'll ask dad something. He'll say, nope, that ain't happening. You know what they do? They go straight to mom. But they don't tell mom dad said no. And then they change their story to make it a little more acceptable. Then mom says, yeah, go ahead. Then here comes the dad. What are you doing, you brat? Mom said I could. You got a problem, you take it up with her. Next thing you know, mom and dad's fighting in the kitchen, and the kids are doing what they wanted. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Somebody said the only reason why we're married is because we got kids. What's going to hold your marriage together when your kids are grown? You should never let your children come between you. You should never argue and disagree in front of your children. If there's something that needs to be talked out as parents, it ought to be done privately. No man should ever cut his wife down to his children. No woman should ever cut the husband down in front of the children. They're slick, they're conniving, and they're self-centered. And if you don't beat their butt every once in a while and let them know they're not going to run the home, you got hell on your hands. I'm not for child abuse. I'm not for pulling hair, smacking people, and all that bunch of nonsense. But I tell you, every once in a while, these smart aleck kids telling dad to shut up and mama, I don't have to do it. I tell you, I'd fire your butt up. You'd stop that nonsense. You wouldn't be pulling that in my house. Man, my daddy beat me. He whipped me for stuff I didn't do. And I'd tell him when he got done, I didn't do that. He said, well, that's for all the stuff you got by with that I don't know about. I was in high school, and I was cutting school and beating people and doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and they took me down to the principal's office, made me sit in the bullpen. Mr. Ramsey was his name, and he used a boat oar to whip us. A boat oar! They put him under prison for having a boat oar now. It was the bottom part of a boat oar, and he had holes drilled in it so that the air wouldn't get between the board and your rear. He had ventilation on a boat oar. And if you were real bad, you got 5 licks. 5. And he'd take a chair like that, and what we'd have to do is bend over the chair and hold on to the sides of the chair. Oh, yeah. I still get cold chills. I was down in his office for cutting food one day, and he said, Phil, I've been whipping you 5 times, and it ain't done a bit of good. I said, oh, yeah, it has. I said, I get in trouble because I like being around you. I don't want no whooping. I just want to come down here and spend time with you. He said, I'm calling your dad. I'm thinking, man, my dad's at work. Go ahead, call my dad. I don't care nothing about it. But I forgot my brother was at home. So he called and he said, is this Mr. Kidd? My brother said, yeah, this is Mr. Kidd. He said, I got Phil here in the office. I've been giving him 5 licks. He's still acting a fool. What do you want me to do? This is my brother. He said, double it. Double it! When he got done paddling me that day, you could have shot me in the rear end with a shotgun, and I wouldn't have felt it for 3 weeks. I was numb from my earlobes down to my ankles. I got home that day, I couldn't sit down. I finally squirmed up on a chair. My dad said, what did you learn at school today? I said, 5 plus 5 is 10. That's what I learned at school today. You all remember the days if you got a whipping at school, you got another one when you got home. You remember the days when your parents said, you're going to say yes, sir, to a policeman. You're going to stand up at attention when the national anthem's played. You're not going to bow your knee and act like an idiot. You're going to salute the American flag. That's the kind of generation I was raised in. That's the direction of the storm. The damage of the storm, I must hurry. It leaves bitter feelings behind. It's amazing how you can walk the aisle and love somebody, and then through time and experiences, you develop a hate that was even greater than the love you once had. You not only have bitter feelings, you have broken homes. Did you know children that are brought up in broken homes are 4 times more apt to have emotional problems, be problematic in suicide, in society, and also 4 times as apt to commit suicide? When you go through a divorce, it reduces your self-esteem. It affects your trust for others. And you bring baggage with you that you carry the rest of your life. The defense of the storm is this, and I'm done. Be a good listener. Man, just sometimes people don't need a lot of information. They just want to know somebody's caring enough to listen. Be a good lover. Make your relationship warm and cuddly. Ladies, set that atmosphere so that when he comes home, he knows it's right. You know, a man comes home, he's kicking toys, and there's 8 dirty diapers, and there's a kid over here with his finger up his nose, and one's over here with no clothes on, and 2's getting baptized. I tell you, a man can't take that. He shouldn't have to come home to that every day. A man can't live like that. You need to spend the day being a keeper at home. You guide the home. Make sure when he comes home, things are appropriate and things that are right. And it takes time to do that. And men, you got to understand, women don't get in a groove just like that. When you get a woman warm and exciting and cuddly, it's a process. And I hate it. It's a waste of time. It burns me up. You got to light candles, and you got to sit down, and you got to hold hands, and you got to have rose petals going to the bed on the floor. And all these prerequisites drive me nuts. No, man ain't like that. The woman's just got to walk by and say, well, I can't say what my wife said to me the other day. It was good. It was You want me to say it, Miss Ken? I didn't think so. But all a lady's got to do is brush by her husband. Hey, good looking. Good looking, huh? Yeah. You talking about good looking? Yeah, I'm good looking. Let me take a heart pill. I'll be right back. You better believe I'm good looking. You got to be a listener. You got to have love in your home. You got to be a leader. You got to be an example. Let me close with this. I want to improve my marriage. I don't know what you want to do with yours. You can throw it away if you want to. But you're going to find one thing about men, ladies. All men have flaws. It may not be the same flaws as the first husband you had, but when you marry him, you're going to find out he's got problems too. So you might as well stick it out with what you've got. Pray every day. Ask God to make you better. Here's how I want to make my marriage better, and I'm done. I ask God every day to make me a better husband. Not for her to be a better wife. I want to be a better husband. Number 2, do something different to refresh your relationship. That's why I bought a Hummer that was customized in California. Miss Judy don't like it. She said I look like a pimp. Yeah. Said you look like a pimp. My member said that to me. A pimp! There's 3 kinds of people that drive a Hummer customized from California. Pimps, pushers, and preachers. We're the only 3 people that drive Hummers. But it makes us feel young again. It's got 26-inch tires. I have to pick her up. That gives me a chance to smack her on her back when I put her in. That's why I bought it. Man, we go down to Pigeon Forge. We open up the sunroof, turn the music wide open. I'm refreshing my relationship. Get out of the Bengay mold. Quit running around with Bengay on instead of cologne. Throw your cane away. Get a sunroof. Let her stand up and wave going down the street. I don't care if she's 95. Do something to refresh your marriage. Yeah. Get romantic. Get romantic. Sit down on the couch, switch hearing aids, and change each other's batteries. Wouldn't that be a good way to start? Engrave his name on his bedpan. Do something to refresh your relationship. Number 3, be swift to apologize when you're wrong. Number 4, don't ever bring up the past. You're not going anywhere in your future if all you do is bring up past mistakes. Your marriage is doomed. You got to stop that nonsense. Quit majoring on the past and start focusing on the future. Learn how to put your marriage back together and make it better. Treat your mate like each day is the last day you're going to be together, because one day it will. And for heaven's sake, get this one. Leave your stinking family out of your problems. Now, I've been married 43 years. I've never had a problem with my mother-in-law. She's probably watching today. She's in Texas, and I'm glad. We have never had a crossword. We have never had a crossword. And let me tell you why we never had a crossword. She has never interfered in my marriage. But I didn't have a wife that every time she stubbed her toe called Mama. Mama, I'm being mistreated over here at the house. Then your mama gets all bent out of shape. And the old hag gets them old demons fired up in her. And next thing you know, you and your husband make up, but mama ain't forgive nothing. So the next time you go over the house, you got to eat in the corner because your wife has run her mouth to her mama, and mama's all fired up. And you little pansy men, you do the same thing. You little spoiled brat, you run to mama's house every time some little something ain't right. Why don't you suck it up, buttercup, and realize you got in this mess, do the best you can, and work it out. Leave your family out of your mess. And you parents, if the kids call you wanting you to get involved, say, look, we worked out our problems, you work out your problems. If there's physical abuse or something damaging going on, sure, we'll call the police and get some help. But you just had a little spat, or he's not doing every little thing you want, or she didn't cook the right meal, that is no reason to call Matthew, are you listening to me? Then look up here at me. Bless God, you ain't looked at me all day. You've looked at her. Look up here at me. You can't be that much in love. That's impossible. For 30 minutes, all I seen was his ear because he's looking sideways at her. You leave your mom and daddy out of your problems. They worked out theirs, you need to work. You know the old saying, I'm preaching because I tell you, I feel a little kickback. And I'll tell you something, the old saying used to be, if you make your bed hard, sleep in it. You wait it out. These women now think no more of getting a divorce than they do signing for a new credit card. You don't do what I do, I'll leave. You ain't gonna do, you won't give me that kind of problem, I'll leave. Where's that vow you made to God? You said for better or for worse. That's what you said in your vow. You said that. You're not getting anywhere with your wife or husband threatening them with your family. And by the way, most of the time when you girls say, I'm going to tell Daddy, Daddy's going to get his butt kicked because he's old and out of shape. Leave Daddy alone because if he comes over there, that young boy is going to smoke his ticket and now we're going to have... You know, Daddy can't even get off the couch without a lifter, so Daddy ain't going to do nothing. But you just shut up and you work your problems out. And you parents quit calling your kids every day. What's going on today? That's none of your business what's going on today. What'd y'all eat today? It ain't none of your business what we ate today. Any girl that's got to talk to her mama every day has got an insecurity problem. Because the Bible said you're to leave your parents and you're to cleave to one another. That's what the Bible says. That's why it's best that when you get married, you move away from your family. I didn't want to be in the front yard of my family and them know everything that was going on in my business. Every time I left the house, went out to eat. It ain't none of your freaking business when I leave my house and when I go out to eat. Get married, get on another side of a mountain somewhere, and live your own life. Best thing we ever did in our marriage was get away from everybody. We learned to lean on each other. Now, I know some of you ain't coming back. I can tell you right now, attendance will be down next Sunday. But I'm trying to tell you, your marriage is going to shipwreck if you don't listen to me. You've got to make some improvements in your relationship. Now, if you think I'm lying, I'm counseling 7 families in this church right now that's fallen all to pieces. And that's just the ones I know about. And they're not all old people either. Did you know the staggering divorce rate in America is up between the ages of 45 and 55? Divorce is at an all-time high in that age bracket in America. Because we built our home on our kids, and now our kids are grown and gone, and now we have nothing to keep us together because it was built on the wrong foundation in the first place. So we're discontent. We don't even know how to act with each other, so we go a different way. Then you got a woman going through a change of life at about 45 or 50, and if you men think she's a hag at 35, hang on, Jack! You ain't seen nothing yet! You wait till she turns about 47 years old, honey. Woo! You better have a shed out in the backyard that'll get you out of the weather at night's what you better have. Because that woman's going to turn into something you ain't never dreamed of. And about the time her brain catches up with her rear, you start acting stupid. Yeah, you want to be 16 again. God help you men 60 years old in a pair of skinny jeans. Are you out of your ever-loving mind? Look like a stinking flamingo going out across here. Are you crazy? I tell you, men are out of your mind. Wearing these short shorts, them old knobby legs. I tell you, man, you guys are crazy. I don't know what's got into you, man. You go around without a shirt on. If somebody hit you, they'd rush you to the hospital thinking you were expecting a baby. You look pregnant, put a shirt on. Who wants a hairy-chested pregnant man in an emergency room? Put some clothes on, man. I don't understand it. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. We got to grow up, and we got to get mature, and we got to get serious about our homes. Brother, go ahead and sign off because I think everybody has anyhow. Let's give the Lord a hand. Glad you're here today.
These are the days of Elijah, declare